Hello, friends, and welcome to another WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado. I hope you're doing well on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. It's a little cooler than it was last week, but I think we're trending in the right direction with spring. Anyway, today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how to avoid staggered appeals so that you don't have to deal with unnecessary delays. And you're probably thinking, what do you mean staggered appeals? So, as you probably know, and if you're just recently had a claim, you can appeal pretty much every decision made by the WSIB with respect to any entitlement issue, whether it's initial entitlement for your claim, a particular area of injury that wasn't accepted by the WSIB, particular diagnosis, medical treatment, and that can involve chiropractic, acupuncture, so many different things. So you can appeal pretty much every decision. And so where the problem lies with staggered appeals is if you're appealing something and then there's another decision made with respect to something else in your claim. So now you're launching another appeal. And these appeals can be staggered. In other words, they're not being handled at the same time. Not only does that cause delays in handling your case, but there are certain issues that, if handled concurrently with other issues, the WSIB Appeal Services Division or the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal may rule in a positive way in one issue, which may then cause the other issue to be resolved. So it's always good to try and get all of your issues addressed at the same time, at least when you're moving towards the appeal process. I'll give you an example. So you have an issue of how your loss of earnings was calculated. Then another issue comes up where they've denied chiropractic treatment. Then another issue comes up where you're seeking entitlement for chronic pain disability, but they've denied that as well. So understanding these issues from get-go and how they impact each other will have an impact on the overall adjudication of the claim, whether it be at the operating level, the WSIB's Appeal Services Division, and more importantly, at the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal, because the tribunal cannot deal with anything that has not been addressed by the WSIB before. They don't have the jurisdiction to do that. So how do you identify what issues you should address or have appealed or have the WSIB make a decision for entitlement at the operating level? Well, if you're not well versed in the laws and how it all works, it'll be a very difficult task. And I can tell you, over 30 years of dealing with WSIB and the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal, and having handled literally thousands of cases over the years that went through my paralegal firm, in order to identify these issues, you really need to know what you're looking for, because sometimes you don't know you're entitled to something, and the WSIB won't necessarily tell you. And how are you supposed to request entitlement for something if you don't know what it is? For example, if your earnings weren't calculated properly, that's a key one, because a lot of people are kind of afraid that, you know what, I'm just going to take whatever they give me. I'm not going to question the amount because they may take it away. Well, it's your right to know, and there are so many different factors involved with the calculation of loss of earnings, from the short-term calculation, the long-term calculation, and then when they're dealing with loss of earnings reviews And of course, in pre-1990 cases, the compensation rate, and for Bill 162 cases, future economic loss, total temporary disability, all of these different rates are calculated differently. But if you're not aware of the laws, how are you going to be able to address it? So we have a very good tool, and I'm not trying to plug my company. Of course, if I find that you have a need for something, I've created something to help you, I'm going to put it out there. But we have a tool with my company, which is the WSIB case audit, and it's a very in-depth review of every aspect of your case. We look at all those things, and we look at whether you've been properly compensated in multiple areas as far as your loss of earnings are concerned, treatment that should have been provided that wasn't or was denied, whether you should pursue psychotraumatic disability versus chronic pain disability, and how that impacts the non-economic loss award for an organic impairment. All of these things are very important. So we look at all of this when we do our WSIB case audit, and it's very in-depth, and it's not just an ordinary file review. Some people think it is, but it's not. And then we provide a report, a detailed report of what we've identified and an action plan to actually pursue those entitlements. But anyway, getting back to the staggered appeals, this is a helpful tool because if you can identify early on what you're entitled to, and even if at that time it may not necessarily become an issue, but you request it anyway, you get a decision made on record, you appeal that decision or you file an intent to object, and then you get all of those issues now ready to move forward to the WSIB's Appeal Services Division. And that's when you submit your appeal readiness form. So that is probably the best way that I can tell you that I know that works in terms of avoiding the staggering of appeals and then having your case in the appeal system Neverland. I've referred to that in some of my videos. Sometimes it's a matter of in a strategy to get all of the issues together. Sometimes it's a matter of waiting a little bit longer to request a piece of information that could be key in helping your argument. And sometimes it's worth investing a little bit of money to get that information. When I was operating my paralegal firm, I always tried to avoid going through expenditures that I knew was going to be passed on to the client. For example, requesting an independent medical assessment, which can be very expensive, or getting a professional opinion on any number of matters, whether it's devices for if your case is handled in the serious injury program and you need certain devices to make your life a little bit easier, things like that. I always try to avoid these expenses because it gets passed on to the client, and of course it can pile up. But sometimes it can make a big difference at the end of the day when you're making that argument to have that. So these are just some of the examples of some of the things that it's worthwhile considering before you're moving ahead with an appeal. So anytime there's a decision, of course, you want to appeal it and get that intent to object form, complete it and send it in. But that basically just protects your right to appeal. The appeal readiness form is the actual one that actually gets things moving in the Appeal Services Division. So that's what I recommend. It's not complicated. It can be if you're not really sure of what the laws are and how things work, and it'll be a bit of a problem to identify some of these issues. But if you can at all, then do it, because the last thing you want is to get to the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal, which is the last level of appeal, and it can take you months, and if not years, to get there, to then find out that there may be a couple of issues that are being handled at the WSIB's operating division or the Appeal Services Division that haven't been determined yet, and the tribunal won't be able to move ahead, or the tribunal can move ahead with whatever issue you have in their office, but the others, they can't because they don't have the jurisdiction because there hasn't been a final determination by the WSIB. I have a lot of opinions when it comes to the WSIB's Appeals Services Division and their appeal system, and I could talk for a long time about that because I think there's so many flaws. But I think if you watch some of my other videos, I always try to plug in my disdain for that division as often as I can, because I think it's a joke, and I think that it hurts injured workers and causes untimely delays or unnecessary delays in getting justice done. Okay, friends, so it's a short one. I'm going to leave you with Mr. Smiley's tip of the day. And here you go. When you're looking to pursue an appeal, take the time or cover the cost of obtaining any additional information you believe will strengthen your case. That can make a huge difference. And at the end of the day, you want to succeed with it. And it may be worthwhile to do that. All right, friends. For those of you who are new to the channel, I welcome you. I've been doing this YouTube channel now for almost a year. Over 135 videos and lots more content to come. I've got over 30 years of experience dealing with these people day in and day out. Very familiar with all three major laws. And we have some really good tools at WSIBsettlements.com. I'll put our website on the screen here to help injured workers in whatever situation they may be in to help them succeed with their claims. So I invite you to become a subscriber of my channel. It costs you nothing. All of the information I provide here is free. And to my subscribers, as always, thank you for sharing my videos and helping me to grow this channel. My goal is to be able to reach every injured worker in this province to let them know that we can help. Okay, friends, and as always, and until next time, take care.